Welcome to live stream today. This is our third one for the week, and we're going to be talking about logic still again, once again. This is a video that I'm a little hesitant to make, but we're going to do two things. I'm going to give you a little bit of cool content that's useful for logic, and at the same time, we're going to talk a little bit about the Logic Pro update, which still hasn't come this week. And so, I mean, it's pretty unlikely, but it's possible that it comes tomorrow on Friday. And if it doesn't, then we're looking at next week sometime. And there's some issues around that. So there's some things to talk about. One of them is what the heck, right? I've been watching the logic groups online, and a bunch of people upgraded to Ventura and are having issues, and not just issues that are related to third-party plugins. That would be fine if it was all just third-party plugins that we're having an issue with. Um, but some people are having issues with logic itself, not opening. I've seen that one. I've seen some people who can't export. They can't export to MP3, which I still use the MP3 export sometimes. There's better formats you can export to, but seems like whenever I export songs for my Android friends that I want them to take a listen to, it has to be small enough to send over like, Messenger or something. If I send them in any of the cool formats, they say, oh, it's not working. And so I have to dumb it down and give it to them in an MP3 format. That's normal. But so people can't even export to some of those formats, and it leaves us in a real deep hole in terms of what's happening with this. So I'm not suggesting anybody upgrade to Ventura. I've never been somebody who says you should upgrade day one to a new operating system. I do that personally, mostly because I can. I have a computer that I get to goof around on and make YouTube videos and do training. And as long as Zoom works and my PowerPoint type software, Keynote, I usually use Keynote, as long as those are working, then I'm fine because I get to actually use the computer for those primary core things and then goof around on the rest. All of my main studio work, if I need to, I've got another computer sitting around that has all of the old operating system on it, my M1, and I've got the studios that I work in for teaching at the university, which all are going to be not going to Ventura until next year. And so I'm not worried about it for myself. But if your computer at home is your main platform, then why in the world would you go to Ventura on day one? That's a really good question. You shouldn't if it's like your bread and butter. If that's how you're earning your money, don't be stupid, right? And so that all being said, I get to go to Ventura for all of those reasons, and I get to test stuff out and have a lot of fun. And so far, everything's been working on my system pretty well. But it is the latest Mac um, of the Mac Studio, so it's a really high-powered Mac Studio. It can it's really, I think the new operating system is probably primarily designed and tested on this computer as one of the computers that it's tested on, and then they trickle down to the other older models. And so I feel a little bit better about it than I would if I was using an older computer that was at the bottom of the range that they're updating with. All that being said, they release Ventura on Monday, right? And right off the bat, they update, and I'll pull this open here. I don't think I'll show anything secret. Right off the bat, they update all the the pro video apps, right? Final Cut. 2 days ago, iMovie, Motion Compressor, Numbers, Keynote, and Pages were updated yesterday. And other stuff from Apple has been updated, but no Logic or MainStage or GarageBand. which means one of two things, or maybe one of three things. I don't know. One of them could be that they think, oh, this is working fine in all of our tests. And so perhaps everybody else will just be able to deal with the normal third-party updates that come out from third-party apps and plugins. But the basic logic works fine. And by all accounts, that's not the case yet. There are a lot of people who've had some issues. The other thing is that they're just waiting to fill in this update at a time when there's not too much other traffic on the highway. Meaning they did Final Cut and all that stuff on one day. They did all of their productivity apps on another day. Today, maybe it was just all about the third quarter earnings call and those news things. It's like you don't want to just, when you're a company as big as Apple, you don't want to be dumping everything all at once. It makes it confusing for people to know. So they usually kind of slot things into place. So we're either going to get some sort of maintenance update tomorrow on Friday. And I can't remember the last time that they've ever done, I mean, this isn't fact. I haven't looked it up, but I don't remember a day or a week when they've done a logic update that was on a Friday. It feels like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, fair game for big updates. Fridays, not so much. So who knows? So if it does come tomorrow, I'm guessing it's going to be like a smaller maintenance update. That'd be a guess. That being said, if we don't see anything tomorrow, obviously we won't see anything over the weekend. And then next week we'll be looking and seeing what happens. It could be that they're just waiting at this point for some of the other announcements they're going to make in terms of computers. There's a number of factors that they could be waiting for, but who knows exactly, except for the people who know. And that would be along the lines of, the team coding it, Apple's release team, scheduler. Perhaps some of the beta testers are in the know. And there are some signs that they are in the know. So what we've seen, and I track this really closely because I'm interested. I'm not interested in being a beta tester, but I'm interested in guessing about these things all the time. I feel like that's part of what I do in this channel. But the big beta testers who have YouTube presence are out there. They went through a phase where they were publishing a lot of YouTube tutorials, quite a bit. And actually, like a few months ago, they went through a lull. So they went through a lull. Everything ramped up with the current version of Logic, and then they've gone quiet for the past couple weeks. And so that usually means nothing to anybody. But to me, it hints at the fact that they maybe have gotten the final release candidate and are making videos, because they'll find out when it's getting released. The last couple major releases, they had full sets of videos that came out at the same time as the release. And so at that moment, they're able to, throw the cover off all the stuff that they've made and put videos out. And so my guess is that they've got the release candidate for whatever's next and are furiously making content, and we'll see some of that come out when it's released, either tomorrow or next week or next month. But, I'm guessing just because Ventura came out and Logic hasn't been updated for that update. I can't imagine there's nothing that, was a compatibility issue. And so essentially, for this window of time, Apple is expecting anybody who gets a brand new computer. So say you go to the Apple Store and you buy a brand new computer, it comes with Ventura on it, and you get Logic with it. It means that there's going to be some stuff in this interim period where it's not working fully with the software. It's really surprising that they haven't even just put a 0.5 upgrade out with this. That being said, I have done quite a bit of testing myself with Logic, and it's working. It's working pretty well. And I've been using third-party plugins. In fact, this one I was just at on a Zoom call with the team from Empirical Labs this week. It was me and a number of other educators and John Crivet from who's a former president of the AES, and we all gathered around and were talking about the arouser, which of course is the evolution from the hardware distressor. You probably recognize the knobs as being like the distressor. If you haven't used the distressor and can't afford one, but you want to know what it's all about, then this plugin is amazing. They're not sponsoring this video. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm just a fan and a nerd fan at that. We have on campus in our studios, I think we have 4 distressors. I think it's 4 at this point. And the beautiful hardware distressors, they're incredible. They are essentially compression with some stuff. And by stuff, I mean some of the saturation and clipping. And in this case, we have control over, and a little bit more detailed here. So that, and then just the algorithms we're using up here for the attack release, in and out levels, and the attack modification. All of these things give you like pretty much every classic compression sound you could think of and more, and you can crank this thing harder than almost anything. I mean, this thing is a serious plugin. The hardware unit, they're telling us that they're very close in sound, but I still think that, I imagine the hardware one is something that a lot of people would reach for first. But we were at this meeting, I think, in part because they really want to talk about the Arouser LT, this bad boy, which is like a mini version. It doesn't have quite as many ratios or controls, but it has a lot of the sound. And in fact, we're getting this on all of our stations at the university so students can mess around with it. Super cool plugin. And one of the things I love to do with this, and what I love to do with it in the studio, the hardware version, is use it on room mics. And so with room mics, of course, if you're using the drummer track in Logic and you just have the basic drummer track, not the producer kit, but the non-producer kit, then you don't have any room mics. But if you load the producer kit and expand it, then you can put this plugin on the room mic for the drummer and really compress that sound and get it to really pop out and add a lot to the largeness of the kit. It's really, really cool, and it's something that it's a workflow that I would reach for in the studio without thinking. And now when I'm not in the studio, I can reach for it and do that. Sorry, delusional, okay. It's true. We're just talking about it because it is coming. There is an update coming. And we're all holding our breath that it's a big one in some ways. There's actually a number of different camps. And I've learned a lot about Logic users this week. One of them is that no one, I mean, a lot of people are hoping for a big update. But they're the same ones who go out and installed Ventura on day one and were surprised when their hardware didn't work, or their third-party plugins wouldn't load, or they couldn't export things from Logic. And they were so surprised. You'll see that all over the internet this week. Tons of people are like, oh my gosh, I just updated to Ventura. Why isn't this working? And someone says, well, go to your backup. And they're like, my what? I don't have a backup. And you just think, wow, rookie. Then there's the group of people who are still on like computers that are like 8 to 10 years old, and they're like wearing it like a badge of honor, and they're so excited that they haven't ever had to update. And I mean, I get that mentality for reals. If this is your business and this is your tool, then you want to make sure it's like consistently working no matter what, right? You You don't care about updating every little thing. On the other hand, I use some of the tools in Logic that have been released in the last couple versions, and I really like them and will use them. And when they update to a new version of Logic, I'm going to jump right on it day one and make a bunch of content about how to use things and tell people what is and isn't working, and probably regret it on some moments of my day. But for the most part, I'm going to be super happy. Um, and if it's like catastrophic, like I said, I've got a backup computer with a backup Logic I can use. Not everybody has that luxury. And then there's people who are wary, and but they're excited and they're thinking about it, but they're not like holding their breath every single moment, um, which is not a bad place to be. I think that there's certainly some stuff about that. Um, but I hope we get more tools. It's like every major update before this last year has brought us cool new things. And I say before this last year because, of course, 1 year ago last week we got Logic 10.7, and it brought us spatial audio and some expanded loop packs, essentially, and some drum kits that go into some of the tools. And that's really all we've gotten in the past year at this point. Uh, and it's like, great, spatial audio. I mean, for those, there's a few of you watching right now. How many of you have done a spatial audio mix in the past like 30 days? I wouldn't be surprised if some of you said you have, but I'm curious. If you're watching right now, put in the chat how many spatial audio Dolby Atmos mixes have you done in the past 30 days? I'll keep talking while you write that down. This is a live stream, so I'll be able to respond as you put it in there. But I haven't. In fact, I don't like Dolby Atmos very much. I know how to use it. I've actually done some mixes in there, so I would know how to use it, so I could teach about it and understand the principles. Uh, but I'm a huge ambisonics fan because for a few reasons. One of them is I like to use the Unreal Engine, and the spatial audio in the gaming world needs to be 360. It needs to have things that you sense looking upwards and sense looking downwards. It's all about relative space. With first order ambisonics, you're not going to have accurate localization to every single degree point, but you're going to have general spaces. And so if you're doing like footsteps and you're walking, you for sound design that's in the spatial world, it would be down below you, right? Or if you heard a sound coming from somewhere below to one side or the other. Dolby Atmos is essentially like a torso up sound field, just the upper hemisphere. That means forwards, backwards, left, right, and up, but nothing from down below. And it makes sense for tons of things. Um, Music, you don't need anything coming from below, right? Not really. For films, maybe it would be cool to have something come from down below, but it makes it really hard to do speaker systems where it's down below you. So things that use head tracking and headphones, great for the full 360 sphere. Things where you want to sit in a movie theater, you don't really need sounds from below. And so, cool, right? So that's really all we've gotten. And um, I think we're looking at, based on the clues, again, of just tracking the people we know are beta testers, um, and looking at the timing of the other updates that have come this week. We're fingers crossed that tomorrow we might see just a maintenance update. And if that happens, then of course the full big version of whatever's coming next for Logic will be sometime later, and not this month or next month probably. But maybe, you never know. So I did a video earlier this year or the end of last year. I don't know how many of you have felt like the pandemic has ruined your sense of time. It could be that I'm just getting old at this point and losing track of when things happened. But I don't remember when the video was made, but I went through every update that we've ever had since Logic 10 was released. And it was really eye-opening how some years they just like jumped to another number, skipped a bunch of the point upgrades, and it was like a condensed cycle. And there was other times that it was a very long cycle. We're bordering on one of the longest cycles right now between any other of the point upgrades. So from 10 to 10.1 to 0.2 to 0.3, we're on the edge of now pretty much being one of the longest ones between. I don't think it is the longest at this point yet. There was one that was, I think, longer. But certainly there have been many that were shorter. And so we're going to see just how much time we have now. So the countdown begins, and when we actually get it, it's going to be one of those things where you're going to see an influx of things happening. People posting about it, articles about it, people saying, okay, you should upgrade. And the real truth is you should follow a very strict set of guidelines before you do anything. And the top of that, pretend you're an airplane pilot about to leave the airport and take off. You have that checklist of everything you're supposed to do to make sure you can take off to fly. And the very first question you should ask yourself is, am I in the middle of anything that if I screw this up, that would really screw me over? If that question is a yes, then just don't upgrade anything, Ventura or Logic or anything. The projects should be the most important thing that you could ever do. Number two, you need to look through everything that you own, all the third-party software, all your hardware, and you need to go to their site and see what they say. And probably more importantly, look around to see if other people who are dumber than you have upgraded and if they say it works or not, right? That's really what matters, because a company could say, ooh, this hasn't been tested, we don't verify that it works with it. And in reality, it's like, okay, the Empirical Labs Arouser LT works fine on Ventura. I don't know if it works with the next version of Logic, but I'll be testing it. My Waves plugins work. My Eventide plugins all seem to open up without any issues. So that's the question that you're looking around. Not necessarily if the company says, but you can get some evidence from people who use the same tools as you. And I'm going to look over what Future Phoenix is saying. Yeah. So, some comments from Future Phoenix about isotope. We should all be afraid of isotope. Not afraid. Well, I wouldn't say afraid. But if isotope puts out a workstation, there's a 50-50 chance that I'm going to look at it for switching. You know what I mean? I'm not necessarily saying I'm going to, but I'm going to look at it seriously. The stuff that Isotope is doing is like insanity. They've got some very smart people over there, and they're doing some stuff that nobody else is really doing in terms of AI, in terms of smart design, in terms of quality audio design. Oh my gosh. So if anything that they put out, I'm going to be looking at for sure. And let's hope, double fingers crossed, or if you're in the Czech Republic, hold your thumbs for good luck. Let's hope that Apple doesn't buy Isotope. Oof. Unless whoever's over there in charge gets to be in charge of Logic. Ooh, that would be nice. I could see that as, somebody's going to get bought. Apple has this huge trend of buying crap. They buy so much stuff that I've loved over the years and ruined. There was this one company like 15 years ago, because I do a lot of sampling stuff. It was called Redmatica, and they were out of Italy. And all of a sudden, they were like just doing great business, doing all kinds of stuff. And then they just disappeared. And I was like, what the heck? I got an email saying they were closing. And I was like, what's going on with this? How could they just close their doors? And I just got their software for the very first time. And so it was amazing. And then come to be that in one of the next logic updates, one of the main functions of their software was incorporated into main stage. Not even logic, it went to main stage first. And GarageBand, they took some stuff for GarageBand. And all of this stuff happening. And so it's like, whoa, Apple just like closed down a company, took like a fraction of what they could do and dumped all of the rest. I mean, this one Redmatica software could do amazing things. And it was like building sample libraries that would work with the EXS24 and Logic. And all of a sudden, all of that functionality just like bulldozed. And they took like a few things. They did take some of the cool stuff. One of them was the auto sampler that we have in Logic, which allows you to pretty much anything that can be controlled by MIDI, you can automatically turn it into a sampled instrument. Genius. I love it. It's really cool. But all of the other stuff, there was this one tool with Redmatica where you could use the mod wheel and have like the spatial positioning of your samples move around. So I was always wanting to make like a footstep library for post-production where you walk, and as you move the mod wheel, it like changes their position in the sonic field, like it changes where it is, like in reverb kind of thing. And it made it so easy to do. It had all these like tools for that. It's like, I don't, that all just disappeared, I guess. Apple never really saw a use for it. And so it went away, or they just didn't have a pathway forward with it. So kind of sad. Yeah. Future is saying best sample stretching period. It's so true. And I honestly wonder if some of our flex time didn't come from Redmatica in the first place. I don't know for sure. I'd have to actually ask somebody. But I wouldn't be surprised about that at all. And Gregory, I know that Future already kind of got to you there, but is the MacBook Air M2 base model enough for Logic? Any computer that runs Logic is probably good enough for most things except for spatial audio. But the M2 is definitely good enough for it. I ran Logic for over a year on the M1 Mac Mini, which I'm holding here. Seriously tempted to do a giveaway with that thing because it's still a beast of a computer, but I'm now using the Mac Ultra. And so that was going to be kind of the backup computer that stays non-Ventura for a little bit in case I need to revert to it in any moment. I don't have a backup of my Mac Ultra. All of my files are on hard drives in multiple places, and so I could always reformat and go back. But I don't keep a backup of that one at this moment. So cool. I would love to see an update tomorrow before the weekend. I think that would be super nice of them to just put that to rest. However, I'm guessing that whatever small or big update is coming next, there's something coming probably early next week is my guess. But we'll have to wait and see for sure. Yeah, Future's right about this too. Finish the graphic interfaces for once. So Gregory, you're asking like, is it fast enough and won't slow down if multiple tracks are loaded? I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking like 200, 150 tracks, it's a MacBook Air, but if it depends on what your main hard drive size is on there. So let me just pull open Apple for a second, and I'll look at the computer for a moment. So if we go into MacBook Air, let's buy one. Let's pretend we're going to buy one. So here's the M2 chip, and So 256 and 512 storage. Um, which one did you get? Oh, you want to buy it. So that's a good question. Um, so if it's for work, at this point, I wouldn't get any M processor without doing the highest amount of unified memory you can and without the 2 terabytes of storage. If you do that, then you're looking at something that's going to be a decent enough computer for anything. Um, if you skimp and do the 8 gigabytes of unified memory, which, by the way, when I got this M1 Mac Mini, it is the 8 gigs of memory, um, and it was still a beast. It could do so much stuff on that thing. I never ever had issues. I couldn't do multiple streams of 4K video easily. I mean, I could in the lighter processing mode, um, the non high quality monitoring view. And it just had 512, but I have a lot of external hard drive storage. But I've learned that when I got my Ultra that I really enjoy having everything that is sample based or whatever on my main hard drive for now. So, about a third or half of this hard drive on mine is that. Um, the problem is this, and this is the thing that I did on mine, my Mac Mini M1. I got the 8 gigabytes of unified memory, mostly because I was like, something bigger is coming, so let me spend like the $650 on it, right? Or it was like 650 to 700. I think I got an educational discount because I'm a professor. But I got that, and I, you know, installed stuff on my hard drive and took it up to like, there's only like 30 gigabytes left on the hard drive. And that was when it started sputtering. So it's like started slowing down. So I cleared off and always kept at least a minimum of 50 gigabytes free on that thing. And then it worked great because what happens is with the 8 gigabytes of unified memory, it uses the hard drive as virtual memory all the time. It's like constantly just dumping stuff on the drive. The drives are incredibly fast, um, like getting close to like what we would consider good for memory in the old days. And and so it was fine as long as I kept like 50 gigabytes of free space on my hard drive and never went past that. If I ever got lower than 50, it started to like slowly slow down. Which is why I say if you're going to get a computer right now that has the option of at least 24 gigabytes of unified memory, just do it because that's going to help everything just run smoother. And then if you have a lot of stuff on your main drive, it's a MacBook Air. So you're going to be wanting to tote it around and do projects on the go. Spend the $600 and get the amazingly amazing internal SSD storage that they have on that thing. Because it is, excuse me, it is so good. I mean, it's like unparalleled good. Um, I think I have my drive tester on here right now. So let's just do select target drive and we'll do this on right there. Oh, it's read only, of course. Let me do that a little bit different place. Users, where's my desktop? Thank you, open. Start. I mean, that's pretty dang good. Pretty dang good. It's going to have a harder time with H.265 12K video streams, but everything else, it's like gonna just blow through so easy. Or maybe it's not even testing for that. I don't even know what that little dash means. Maybe that's just a format that H.265 can't even do. I don't know what those little dashes mean there, but I know that, for instance, everything is green lit with check marks and speed times. And that is insane, insane speeds. If I do this on, I don't have any external drives hooked up right this second. If I do that on my fastest external SSD, it's going to be hundreds, maybe up to 1,000, but not 5,634. So get this little utility, test your drives. This is a good time for a PSA. If you have external drives connected to your computer right now, and it's an SSD, get this and test it. It could be, and this is what I found this out the hard way when I first got my fastest one. I use this guy right here. It's a SanDisk, 2 terabyte USB-C, USB 3 device. USB-C and USB 3 are different specs. One of them talks about the type of connector, and the other one talks about the speed of connection, essentially. It's a simplification. But if you have a USB 3, USB-C hard drive, and a USB-C cable that is not USB 3, then you're going to be actually bottlenecked in your cable, and it'll actually be slower. And so a drive that can go fast is going to be slow if you have the wrong cable. So you want to make sure you get all of the correct cables and the correct drives for the fastest throughput. And then I've got like some backup drives like this Glyph, which is never going to be quite as fast as the one of those other SanDisk ones, but it works really nicely. And I don't put all of my critical things that I need to read fast off of there. I put things that I can just back up a little bit slower. So you have to think about all of these different pieces. And so it becomes very complex to update to a computer at a weird time in the cycle when everything's brand new, because you don't know what's going to have issues. Apple doesn't even know what's going to have issues. We're all beta testers at some point. And so you want to make sure that you've closed everything off that you're working on as much as possible. Unless, of course, your computer just sucks so bad that you're like, I can't make it through this project without updating. That's a different story. If you're having that kind of issue, then upgrade, but have a really significant plan in place for that transition. Well, we've gone into other worlds of discussions. The simple answer is, if you get a MacBook Air, get it fully loaded. I know you're up to like $2,500 right off the bat with what I just suggested. So maybe you're like, I just want the baseline. I need a deal at the same time. And so you're like, I've got all that stuff you can get for $1,500 for the 8 gigs of RAM, but then you need to get really fast external drives and good cables, because the last thing you want to be doing is sitting around and having like the cable coming off right in the middle of editing something in Final Cut or Logic and causing an issue with that. You'll lose work that way just about faster than any other way. These drives still can crash and get corrupted and have all kinds of issues. They're not truly plug and play in that sense. And so be careful with what you get as accessories. Don't go cheap. You can't go cheap on every single thing that you do, if that makes sense. You have to go expensive on some part of this. And so that's one of the best pieces of advice I think I could give anybody. I said this in the live stream last night we did. If you have your data in 3 places, you own it. If you have the data in 2 places, you're renting it. And if you have your data in 1 place, you don't actually have it at all. And that goes to what Future Phoenix just said in the chat. Keep backups of backups. I'm living on the edge. Most of my backups are on drives or on my computer, and then in the cloud. And so far, I had one drive crash. This drive right here. It's like an old drive that was in. It's like well, what was that drive type called? I think it might have been a Glyph. Oh, a LaCie. It was a LaCie. It's French probably. This was a LaCie drive that died, and the part that died luckily wasn't the drive itself. It was just one of the connections inside. So I bought this little case on Amazon for like $6. Took the drive out of the other case and just slipped it into this and plugged it in, and it fired right up. And I was so happy because that data was only in one place. Um, it wasn't data I was currently working on, so it was a backup that was like if I lost it, I wasn't actually going to suffer. But I had one video file on there that I'd been looking for, and so I was kind of like sad that I had lost it, but wasn't in dire need. But I tried this and it worked, and so now that data is in several other places floating around to make sure that I don't lose it ever again. Okay, we're done. Thanks everybody for watching the stream. Come back when the thing is announced. We'll be doing a live stream within an hour or two of the Logic release when it happens shortly. Even if it's just 10.7.5, we'll still be opening it up and testing it on a live stream and letting you all know just what we think of it and so forth. If it's a bigger one, 10.8 or 11, then we'll be doing lots of discussions and looking at new features. So come back soon. Look for, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so that you can always get notified if we go live, because we'll be going live that fast. We won't have a lot of leeway ahead of that. So everybody have a good night. If nothing comes out tomorrow, there's no live stream tomorrow unless there is a new product release. Otherwise, we'll be doing another one Monday with any updated news about what's working and what's not. And I'll see you all later. Thanks for coming.